We are adding fractions. First thing you're going to look at is, do you have a common denominator? No. What's the first one missing? And what's the second one missing? First one's missing the p plus 1. And the second one's missing p minus 2. So I'm going to get p minus 2 times p plus 1. And on the top, if I multiply that out, I'll get p squared minus 1 plus the second one, p plus 1 and p minus 2. And if I multiply the top out, I will get p squared plus p minus 6. Adding fractions, how do we add fractions once you have a common denominator? Well, your denominator stays the same, p minus 2, p plus 1. And in your numerator, you add what's in common. P squared plus p squared will give you 2p squared, plus a p minus 1 and minus 6 gives you minus 7. Now, there will be some times that after you've added, you can simplify. So you have to check, can I factor the top? Okay? Right now, that can't be factored, which means this entire thing is grouped together as one big factor. And unless a factor is identical in your denominator, it can't be simplified further. So in this case, this one is done. I'll do part B on a new page. Part B is a little trickier because initially we start off the same way. We have a difference of squares on the bottom, and so it'll be 3 plus e, 3 minus e. And we might want to put a special note off to the side. We've written this note before, is when you have a factor that's really close to being the same, but the numbers are flipped. Like I have e minus 3 and 3 minus e. I can make 3 minus e equal to, if I factor out the negative, the e would become positive and the 3 would become negative. And what's nice about that, so now I'm going to rewrite Are you okay with 3 plus e being the same as e plus 3? Yes. Yes? Okay. And then I'm going to change the 3 minus e because I factored out a negative 1 to e minus 3. Okay? That's using the note.
Why did you switch to 3 plus e?
To e plus 3? Just because I like having my variables first. It doesn't, because 5 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 5.
Oh.
So or when you're adding two things, it doesn't matter the order. Well, from the top one, that's just from factoring this difference of squares, right? How do you factor a difference of squares? 9 minus e squared will be 3 and 3, e and e. 1 will be plus, 1 will be minus. Okay? Second note. If you have a negative in a fraction, okay? So I'm just going to pick a random fraction and say that 3 over negative 7 would you agree is the same as negative 3 over 7? And it's also the same as negative 3 over 7. So when you have a negative in your numerator or denominator, it doesn't matter where you switch it to. Right now, the reason I'm saying that is I have a negative 1 in my numerator. I can move that negative 1 to my, I have a negative 1 in my denominator. I can move that negative to my numerator if I like, or I can move that negative to the front of my fraction. What would happen in this case if I moved that negative to the front of my fraction? It would become positive. So that's the thing that I'm going to do next. 2 over e minus 3. I'm going to take that negative and move it out in front of my fraction so that I'm adding instead of subtracting. Okay, but still when adding fractions, what do we need? Common denominator. This one is missing an e plus 3. Yep. Using note number 1. Note number 1 in black, 3 minus e is equal to, factor out the negative, negative e minus 3. So then I rewrote this in the purple box, wowza, as that in the purple box.
Why couldn't you just leave it as the first one?
If I left it as the first one, then my denominators aren't the same. If I change it, I have an e minus 3 here and an e minus 3 here, which will get my common denominator quicker. If you get a common denominator quicker, your simplification later on will be easier. Once you get a common denominator, so here I'm going to get 2e plus 6 over e plus 3, e minus 3, plus, and here I have 3e over e plus 3, e minus 3. My denominators are the same. I can add. Two e plus 3e becomes 6e plus 6. Can we factor our numerator? Yes. We could take out a 6. But when we take out that 6, nothing simplifies, so this would be done. Here, wait a second, wait a second. What happened? 2 plus 3 is 5. Whoops. Thank you. Two plus 3 is 5, not 6. And then nothing can factor.
How could you simplify the 6 in the first one anyways?
How could I simplify the 6 in the first one? What do you mean?
Well, you just took the 6 out for 1. How did that work?
Oh, before when I was working with the mistakes,
Yeah.
I factored out the 6.
How though? You didn't change anything but the 6.
I had 6e plus 6, common factor of 6. Distribute.
Oh.
No. Okay. But well, let's erase that because that was when you added 2 plus 3 and got 6. Which happens sometimes. I've marked some of your quizzes. You've done that. Okay. Questions for practice. Question number 3. 4b, 5, and 8.